just look at what happened around the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are the most lucky people in the world.
Not to be in the middle of all that, you mean?
Oh, yes.
Yes, right.
Just a good example, I was last year in Dubai with my family. Now people prefer to put their money here in Switzerland than to keep it in Dubai.
Right.
Good opportunity. Here, center of the world, good life.
What more can you say?
Best position for the future.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of Getting Serious with Woody Wade. I'm Woody Wade, and today I'm in Geneva, and my guest here is someone who has spent a lifetime profoundly shaping some of Switzerland's most important countries. Etienne Jornod is best known for his leadership of the Swiss pharmaceutical distributor Galenica, where he oversaw a remarkable transformation from a traditional pharma wholesaler into a group that ultimately gave rise to two distinct and highly successful businesses, one still named Galenica, an integrated pharmacy and healthcare provider, and Vifor Pharma is the second company focused on specialty pharmaceuticals. Along the way, he built a reputation not just as a manager, but as a strategist willing to take bold, long-term decisions in industries often driven by short-term pressures. And we'll be talking about that in more detail. Later, he brought that same mindset to the media world as chairman of NZZ, helping guide its flagship newspaper, the Neue Zürcher Zeitung, which is one of Europe's most prestigious and respected newspapers, through the very difficult transition to a digital world. And then at an age when many managers might be thinking about slowing down, he chose instead to start again, acquiring and developing the company OM Pharma, where we are today, as a new entrepreneurial venture. Now, what makes his perspective particularly compelling for us today is that Etienne has been operating at the intersection of industry, governance, and innovation here in Switzerland, which is, as you all know by now from our many discussions on the podcast, a country whose strength lies precisely in that combination. So today we'll be exploring what it means to transform and perhaps most intriguingly, to start over. So welcome. Very much happy to have you, Etienne, and I appreciate the time that you're spending with us today.
Thank you.
Let me open with a question about your background. You've spent a lot of your career inside large organizations. What, for you, distinguishes an entrepreneur from just a very good corporate manager?
Oh, this is a very interesting question. A very good one.
You've seen both, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Right. You've been both.
Why not? I consider myself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Even though at the beginning I was not running my own company, but this is more a question of philosophy. If you consider yourself as a manager or as an entrepreneur. What I try to do, it's difficult to answer this question. This is more a philosophical question, I would say. If I can explain this as follow. Here at OM Pharma, I am trying to explain to everybody that everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Everybody should be an entrepreneur.
This is my philosophy. I explain to the receptionist, for example, that he has or she has to take his role, as it would be her own company. And knowing this, considering this, I am absolutely convinced that people work differently.
I see.
And how explaining the difference with other words, I would say, if you act as an entrepreneur, you work as it would be your own company.
Right.
If your future is depending on the measures that you are taking. And I think if you achieve this goal, it's fantastic for the company. And this was always my philosophy, trying to explain, to convince people or to motivate people, to make them more convinced about her or his role within the company.
Right. But you have to set up evaluation systems based on that then, right? Because are you not asking them sometimes to break the rules if the rules don't make sense for themselves?
For that reason, this is more a philosophical question. It is not something that you can write, because if you write, we should be entrepreneur. Everybody understands this differently.
Yes.
And I have very, very good example and dramatic example. Being an entrepreneur with money of others, this is something which is very common with managers.
Yes.
If it is your own money, you act differently.
Right.
And you can teach or you can create this feeling, being an entrepreneur, just by the example you give to other people. And this is the way I try to act.
Right. So, I mean, around the room here, which we can't really see, I think in the background there are quotes from yourself and from the CEO of the company that reflect this this mindset.
Yeah.
But would you say this is a mindset that is prevalent in Switzerland, or is this something that is hard sometimes to actually get people to accept?
I don't know if you can say that Swiss people are more entrepreneurial than others.
Right.
But I think if you are an entrepreneur and you work in Switzerland, you have all the possibility you can wish to be successful.
Right.
I think the Swiss market, the Swiss culture is very positive.
Yes.
It's a very good ground if you want to be, if you want to act as an entrepreneur in Switzerland.
So not everybody necessarily needs to be an entrepreneur, but those who are will find a very fertile place to establish themselves here in Switzerland. I'm sorry, I should probably know this, but did you ever work outside the country in your career?
I was in charge I was always located in Switzerland, but I was in charge of different roles which were international.
Right.
I was, for example, very often in the US and in France, in England, different companies that we have created, for example, or that we bought.
Right.
We bought companies in Canada and in the United States, just to take two examples.
Yeah.
And I had to be there to share our philosophy, to try to convince them to work as we work, and so on. And for that reason, I can say I have some international experience.
Well, yeah, for sure. But you might have seen then whether the entrepreneurial spirit you're talking about is also embedded in other cultures, or
yes, and if you compare different countries, this is very interesting. But it's a little bit difficult now to take examples without shock
names.
Or to I must remain very low key and when I take example. But I can share with you a very good experience that I have made in Redwood City in California, when we bought a biotech company for 1.7 billion Swiss franc. This means more or less $2 billion.
Right.
Before buying the company, I spent a few days with the management and with the executive committee, explaining them we are a relatively small company. We are not a Novartis, Merck, or Pfizer. We're a mid-sized pharma company, and for us, buying a $2 billion dollar company is a huge step ahead.
Right.
And we need to have people highly motivated who will work with us. You will keep your independency. You will play a very important role for us. And everybody explained to me, "Oh, Etienne, this is exactly what I want to do." And this was beautiful. We signed the deal. We bought the company, and 1 week after, everybody left. And this was the kind of
They
experience.
left?
Yes, they left, except one.
What
This
happened?
is part of the philosophy on the West Coast. You come from one company to go to another one. You work for a startup, and when the startup is sold, you move to the next one.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is a very interesting experience that I made.
No kidding.
And this is one example. Another example.
Were you expecting something like that?
Absolutely not. If I had expected this, I think I would act totally differently.
Yeah.
But this was a very good experience. And for us here as OM Pharma, this is an experience which will help us very much, because we plan to go to the US in 2, 3, or 4 years.
Right.
And you can be sure that I will act differently this time. And this is an entrepreneur. You try something, time to time it works, time to time it doesn't work, and you learn from your experiences.
Right.
And if you go to France, we had, I would say, 30 affiliates around the world, and one of them in France. And if you work in France, the way of working is totally different. The way people consider the work, consider the boss, is totally different from the way it is considered here in Switzerland.
Right.
And I consider this is a very negative point, the way the work is considered in France. And this is a total different experience that I have made in France with the experience that I made in the US.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in the French system or the French way of thinking, even as you've had some experience. But of course, I think it's a much more hierarchical society, and especially in the working world, isn't it? But being innovative must mean also, at least from time to time, challenging the status quo.
Oh yes,
whatever it is.
You should always.
And a culture like the French one, for example, is probably a very difficult place to do that, because the status quo is, this is the way we've always done things. It's working. It's even something that needs to be protected somehow, right?
But I suggest we speak more about Switzerland than about France, if you agree.
I completely agree with you. You're right. You're right. So there was a period then when you were in a more of a corporate role, right? And then you moved to the NZZ as the chairman. Now, this is obviously governance rather than management, or certainly not operations. But how did you make that shift in terms of seeing your role in your contributions to the future success of the organization? And it's so different, isn't it, the media world, from what you'd been working in before in healthcare, right?
You will be surprised.
Really?
What my understanding of the role was totally different from the one you have described, which is a common one.
Right.
I should explain to you what it happened. The newspaper, generally speaking, the media scene, the media market is in a very difficult situation.
Right.
Or there has been in a very difficult situation for now more than 15 years with internet and so on, digitalization and so on. And as all newspapers, the NZZ in Zurich was in a very difficult situation.
Right.
Extremely difficult. They were not ready for the future. And they had different chairmen for, I think, before I joined, they had 4 chairmen within 4 or 5 years. Very, very changing environment. It was very, very challenging for the organization. And they decided to look for an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why they have hired me.
Okay.
And my role was clearly to define a new strategy with the board, not alone, because I am not able to do anything alone.
Right.
But to transform totally the NZZ. And this is what we have done. This means it was absolutely not a corporate role.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same that what I have done at Galenica, at V4, or now here. Mm-hmm. The goal was to transform totally the company. And the first measures that I had to take was to hire a good board,
The
board of
the board
directors.
itself was replaced, most of it, or?
Yes,
Okay.
don't want to go more
Right,
in depth.
that's enough,
but,
but okay.
The first measure was to appoint 4 new members
I see.
and to appoint a new CEO.
Okay.
And I choose people who were not in this market. I wanted to have people coming with new ideas
Yes.
and people who were able to work well together. And then we define new goals. We hired a new chief editor and so on. And step by step, we transformed totally the company, deciding that instead of selling a printed product, we wanted to sell a digital product.
Yes, totally different.
Totally different, new culture, new way of working, setting new priorities and defining a very high price as goal with the idea, if you want to read us, you must be ready to pay very much. And this was the philosophy. If you want to create a product that is profitable, you must sell it at the right price.
Right.
And as we wanted to have a fantastic product without too much advertising, we had to sell it at a very high price, and the quality had to be consequent.
Yeah. Well, the quality of the NZZ is unquestioned. I mean, it's the newspaper of record of Switzerland, basically, right?
Yes, in Switzerland, it's clearly the best. We belong. I still say we because I totally identified with this newspaper, but it belongs clearly among the 3 best, or at least it is considered as one of the 3 best newspapers in the world.
Yes.
And I must tell you, if you are chairman of this company, you can go everywhere.
Yeah.
You are welcome absolutely everywhere.
Right.
And this was a fantastic experience. But my role, to end with this, was not a traditional corporate chairman role.
Right.
It was clearly an entrepreneurial role.
Transformative.
To appoint people able to be entrepreneurs and to transform the company.
Right.
And this is what we have achieved.
I understand. So it was not a situation where you were coming in to work with an existing CEO.
It was
rather to
change everything.
To change
We changed the board, the CEO, the executive committee, the editor-in-chief, and so on. We closed the printer. Everything. This was a big revolution at this time.
But there's still a print edition, isn't there?
Yes, but we outsourced it to the competitor. As we have taken a lot of measures, which were very shocking.
That's very entrepreneurial.
Yes, it
really.
Okay. And because when the number of newspapers that you print is declining,
yes,
the fixed cost become a big issue.
Yes.
Becomes a big issue. And if you can transfer this big issue to your competitor, first your costs become flexible, which is the best, and then the hot potatoes is by the competitor. And this is what we made.
I see.
And we also decided to internationalize the product.
Yes.
And we went to Austria and Germany, and we were also very successful.
Right. There's also a lot of English being produced under the NZZ banner, right? And I don't think that was always the case. Was there an English version of the NZZ?
Now there is a...
But not when it was a print version, print edition, no.
No, just a German one. But digital, you can get it now in English, in French, and other languages.
Okay, and French as well. Right. Well, that must have been a very interesting transformation. And then
it was fabulous.
Did you say at a certain point, well, I've done my work here, it's time to move on? What was the...
I did the job for 10 years.
Yes.
And I exit 2 years ago. It was the limit. It was not possible to continue more.
Right.
And this was for me a fantastic experience because I was the first French-speaking or the first non-German-speaking chairman.
Yeah.
And additionally, French-speaking Swiss.
Yes.
Emotionally, this was interesting.
Weltschländer.
Exactly. If you understand the Swiss culture, knowing that Zurich is the center of the world, best people are in Zurich.
That's what they say.
And why are we looking for a Neuchâtelois,
right?
Coming from Neuchâtel to run their own newspaper?
Right.
It was challenging.
Right.
But fabulous.
But that was also something obviously you overcame. Right.
Oh yes, at the end, I
probably
can tell you everybody
about
was
48 hours, I would think.
Yes, everybody was happy, and for me it was a fabulous experience.
Yeah, and this was a full-time position, or
no? But
Did you actually move to Zurich?
for common people, I think it was a full-time job.
Yeah.
But I did also other.
For you, was only 50 hours a week, and that left you with an extra couple of hundred, right? Nice.
I did parallelly the job as chairman of Galenica and before.
Yes. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Anyway, I think every day the challenges change and you must adapt yourself. But I think I made a lot of mistakes. I would have avoided the mistakes that I did.
Right. And I'm not asking you to tell me what they were.
Oh, I am ready. I have absolutely no problem to speak about mistake because it's part of the life. And you have what the challenge is the way you go with mistakes.
True, but I'm thinking also of the fact that even an entrepreneurial spirit is sometimes constrained by an organization's culture or rules, even in some cases, right? Or sometimes even not from the organization itself, but it could be legal, it could be societal, whatever. Yeah. And if you could snap your fingers and remove some of those constraints, or if you could have, I'm asking counterfactual here, would there have been something that you could have done faster or better that you just couldn't because the walls were where they were?
I think the biggest challenge was a psychological challenge. The NZZ is a newspaper which was founded in 1780. This means a lot of culture.
Yes.
Which belongs probably to the most famous institution in Switzerland.
Yes.
And to change this kind of organization, I can tell you this is a huge challenge, huge challenge. And you have to change the way of thinking of people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably the most difficult thing. It's much more difficult than working with strong regulation and so on.
Right.
And this was part of the challenge. This is the reason why I was asked to become the chairman of this company, because I thought, Etienne was able to change Galenica, which was a company belonging to the Swiss pharmacist and Swiss journalist. This is also a lot of culture, or it was is the case at this time. I think the biggest hurdle was the culture and the thinking of people.
Right.
Why to change the way of working of a traditional newspaper?
Yes.
This was very difficult.
And in a way, it must have been
something that you can't change. It was part of the challenge.
But the interesting thing is that the quality was already so high, right?
Yes.
You were not...
At least the perception. Okay?
Okay. All right. Okay, that's a different thing, isn't it?
This is a different thing. I think, anyway, NZZ had always very good journalists.
Right.
But the challenge was at this time that the product, if I can speak like this, had no clear profile.
The product being the newspaper, or the product being the print edition?
The newspaper.
The newspaper itself?
Yes, what you read.
Oh. Okay.
The profile was not as clear as it should have been.
Okay.
And this was the biggest problem. It was officially right.
Yes.
Liberal.
Yes.
But it was not clearly liberal.
Okay.
And what we made, among else, was to appoint a chief editor.
Right.
Who was clearly positioned.
Right.
And now the newspaper has a very clear profile. And this was one of the biggest challenge we had.
I imagine.
To define a clear profile.
Yes.
To have a product that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
And if you are left-oriented, middle-oriented, or right-oriented, you can read it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you read. You are not surprised.
Right.
This is very important.
Yes.
To know what you read. This is the opinion of someone who is clearly liberal.
Yes.
And you can define your own opinion with this.
Yes.
If you don't know what it is, if you don't feel it clearly, this is a challenge. And this is very emotional, very sensitive.
Of course.
This is probably
people's their heart is in their work.
Oh, yes.
And
this to tell them, or a very good example. One of the first meetings I organized with the journalist, this was at the beginning, I was confronted with 300 people in the room, and someone asked me, what do you want to do? And I told them, I want you read for your readers. You must read for your readers, and this is what is important. You must, and I didn't use the word readers. I said for your client. Now I speak about
that's
readers
a different mindset already, isn't it?
And someone very arrogant told me, Mr. Chairman, we will read for the Migros. Migros, this is a retailer, the most famous, one of the most famous retailers in Switzerland. For the journalist, who was the client at this time? The company who did advertising in the newspaper.
Yes.
And I told them, no, your client is the reader.
Yes.
For some of the journalists, it was much more important to be read by the Nobel Prize than by you or by me.
Right.
And this
they're writing for each other in a way,
exactly.
Right?
And I explained to them,
a little bit of an academic mindset.
You must convince all our target readers to read us, even though they have to pay very much to read us.
Yes.
And this was a cultural challenge.
How has the financial turnaround been?
Oh, yes.
The circulation has gone up?
Sure. Yeah, dramatically. It was declining.
Yes.
We stabilized 2 years, and then it rose dramatically. And we created the NZZ in Germany, and we got 60,000 readers in Germany.
In Germany?
Yeah, it was a huge.
These are not Swiss expats. These are Germans, I would imagine, right?
In Germany.
That's
fighting against Frankfurter Allgemeine, Die Welt, Süddeutsche, and so on.
Right.
And this was a fantastic job which was achieved by our journalists.
Yes.
They were very successful in Germany, thanks to the technology. Having no printed edition, especially for Germany anymore, but a digital product, the costs were the same.
Exactly.
And
there's no 24-hour delay to get the newspaper on your desk.
Online as well.
Fantastic.
But we did the same experience with V4, with Galenica, and so on.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question. I mean, what did let's stick with the NZZ experience. It's a good decade.
Everybody is interested by the NZZ, even though the NZZ is a very small company in terms of
but it's
value, financial value.
Well, Rolls-Royce is also a very small company, isn't it, right, compared to the giants?
You're right.
But it's the Rolls-Royce in its field, isn't it?
The brand.
And that's what makes it so interesting. But to transform a company like the NZZ, what lessons, maybe you've been asked this question a lot, but I'm just wondering, what lessons did you learn from that experience that you have brought into what you're doing now in OM Pharma? They're very different again. Maybe I don't want to answer the question for you, but you're returning to your pharmaceutical and healthcare roots, but with now all of the 10 years of experience in a different business altogether.
First of all, I would say that the experience that I made with the NZZ, I made them thanks to the experience I got in the pharma.
Because they said they were looking for an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Right.
And now this is a common pot, if I can say, about everything of what I have experienced. I would say the most important thing is the strategy. You need to have a very clear, convincing strategy and very simple. Second point is the right people without good people, you can't achieve anything. And the third one is a communication. If you want to achieve your strategic goals, you need people.
Mm-hmm.
And to explain to your people what we have to do to reach our goal, you need to explain. And communication is absolutely crucial. And this is what I have learned. It's very simple, but life is not complicated. And the goal is to make it as simple as possible.
Right.
And this is what I have learned, and this is what I do. And here at OM Pharma, I let the management working. I don't interfere, but I challenge them, and I take care and I follow very carefully these three things: strategy, people, communication.
This episode is brought to you by Swissquote. You know, in a world of economic uncertainty, having full visibility and control over your finances matters more than ever. Swissquote is Switzerland's leading digital bank, combining everyday banking with advanced trading and investment solutions. So whether you're investing in stocks, ETFs, crypto, or just looking to actively manage your portfolio, Swissquote offers powerful tools, transparent pricing, and the security of a fully regulated Swiss bank. Discover more now at Swissquote.com. Let's talk about people. One of the things that Switzerland has going for it, I think, and certainly from the other people that I've talked to in these podcast discussions, is that it's a great source of talent here in this country. People are well educated. They're just around the corner. You don't have to necessarily look very far or very hard to find excellent people. Has that been your experience too? Of course, you're looking to staff senior managers. You're not a startup, but there are people in every position in the organization.
Every position. Right? And every position. Just at the beginning of our talk, I spoke about the receptionist.
Right.
This is the first impression you get from a company if you go to visit a company. Everybody is important, and you have to consider this. And what is absolutely fantastic in Switzerland is that you have this quality of people.
Right.
Extremely well educated, excellent background, they speak languages.
Yes.
And here in Switzerland, this is fantastic.
Right.
I told it to you at the beginning. You can do everything in Switzerland. If you are an entrepreneur, this is the best ground you can imagine.
Well, what else makes it, in your opinion, the best ground?
The political environment, stability.
Right.
Stability is very important. People come, work, go back home every day. You have a good relationship. You can discuss with your people, and they have an excellent education. And you can, let's take an example. I've been working in Switzerland with more or less all cantons. You know that we have 26 states.
Right.
You can negotiate with everybody. Here in Geneva or in Neuchâtel, Bern, I live with Bern, but work in Geneva. You have always someone who is ready to speak with you to find a compromise, a good solution, which is dedicated to you. And for example, when I decided 6 years ago to buy OM Pharma, I discussed with the government. Everybody, it was very easy. You have access to the government, and if you take this very positively, all doors are open.
Right.
And it's really good.
Right.
But you need to take the initiative, and you need. My way of working is to be open, to explain what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I consider this to be transparent is the best way to convince. And if you go to the government, you explain what you do, what you want to reach, and they will help you. This is my experience.
Do you think the door is also open for the manager or the owner of a small company or a startup even? I mean, it's one thing to have your credentials and your visiting card, and the door will open for you. But would the same thing be true of someone who's starting up a small company and also needs some help?
I am convinced.
Yeah.
If you compare OM Pharma, is much smaller than V4 or Galenica. and they was extremely welcome. And I am sure if you are a small entrepreneur, you explain what you want to do, you will get help. I know. Let's take in the canton from Neuchâtel. I have experience. We have bought once a company which was founded by a French guy who created from scratch a very small biotech company in Couvet, canton of Neuchâtel, out of nothing. He got a massive help from the canton. Even though he was not known, he was a nobody for the Swiss people, and he started a new company from scratch,
right?
And he got a lot of help.
So he basically just needed to be convincing.
Yes,
right.
I think
that's the communication part of things, then, right? Clear, convincing, a winning mentality. That goes.
I think this is the best way to work.
Yes, of course. Now, let me ask you, this is a bit of a personal question, but taking the step that you did when the NZZ role came to its end, so you were already at, or let's say a little bit beyond the normal retirement age. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Let's not go into the details, but
you can go.
That's about right. Isn't that correct? What was it that made you want to take the kinds of risks that would be involved in another, essentially a re-startup, right, of this company? Instead of putting your feet up and
because I love
living in the Bahamas or something.
I enjoy very much working with people.
Yes.
Take initiative, transform things. I can't stay without doing anything or playing golf, going to a restaurant and so on. I need to act, and this is what you would call passion.
Yes.
I love to do this, and it's part of my life.
Yeah.
And when I decided to buy OM Pharma, I still was chairman and CEO, executive chairman of V4, which was at this time $16 billion market value.
So that was one of the successor firms of Galenica.
It was fantastic.
It was a spin-off of 10 years before, right?
Galenica was a logistic organization,
yes,
and we have transformed it in two companies. The Galenica, which is still a listed company in Switzerland, value is more or less 5 billion, which is in fact not mainly a logistic organization, but a pharmacy chain.
Mm-hmm.
And V4, which was a pharma company, which still is a pharma company. Right. And when I was executive chairman of V4 in 2017 or 18, I was contacted by an opinion leader, a very well-known Professor Fernando Martinez in Arizona, who told me, you have a fantastic product, this one. Bronchovaxum.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, this is in your portfolio, but this product is absolutely fantastic. Again, respiratory tract infection.
I'm sure you must have known that it was a good product, right?
Yes, but it was not in our priority list.
Right.
Oh, and it was here in Geneva by OM Pharma, and he spoke about this product, and as one of the best opinion leaders in the world, comes to Switzerland to meet with me, to tell me your product is important for us.
Right.
It was very
not
impressive.
at your request, but at his own.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Exactly. This was fantastic. And in 2020, 2 years later, I thought now the moment has come. I stepped down from V4 and I prepare my next feature.
Yes.
I was 67 at this time.
Okay.
And I buy this company. And I stepped down and made an offer.
Yes.
It was very sensitive, as you can imagine, because I also was a founder of V4.
Right.
The chairman's founder stepping down and buying one asset of V4. This was very sensitive.
Right.
We manage, or the board, my successor managed this very well. And we bought this. Why? Because I was fascinated by the challenge, as I was 30 years before when I had other challenges, and I don't feel any difference.
Right.
And you can perhaps see with my enthusiasm,
Yes.
I'm still enthusiastic.
Right.
And I love to transform things, to take initiative, to decide, and to work with people. What has a little bit changed is my role. I am not really an executive taking daily decision,
Right.
but as I have tried to explain, challenging people, putting in question their choice, making some recommendation, but letting them work. And with the experience, I have learned much more to let people work. And to
that's come from your experience.
yes, I think
Don't breathe down their
less
don't breathe down their neck.
less impatient.
Interesting. Okay. Up to a point, I suppose, right?
You are right.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I love the idea that you're sort of saying, within your 3 square meters, you're the boss. You know better than anybody else how things should work, right? And so take ownership for your work rather than waiting for someone else to give you some instructions, right?
Good definition. Yes.
I think that mentality is beautiful. Have you experienced cases where it hasn't worked so well? Not because someone hasn't taken this mindset and internalized it for themselves, but maybe because they took some initiatives that made sense for them but did not make sense for the company, as an example. Can that
yes,
also happen?
many times.
Yeah. And what do you do in that case then? Generally speaking, I know each case must be different, right?
First of all, I try to explain. First of all, I think, and this is one of my biggest weaknesses, I give always a chance to people to correct their mistake by themselves, and explaining or challenging them about their decisions, about the measures they are doing, telling them that I don't think you will reach a goal. We have experienced this and it doesn't work. You should try something else. I don't know. And I have a lot of patience at the beginning, and I let them do the mistake. I try to explain, and again and again. And at a certain moment, if they don't understand, I stopped.
Yeah.
And then it's finished. But I let them having the chance to correct by themselves about the mistakes they are doing.
Okay.
And the problem is often that I had too much patience. I wait too much.
Okay.
I am sure many other managers would act much quicker and stop them much quicker.
Well,
I let them.
Is that good, or that's not necessarily a
No,
good thing,
this
right?
is not. This is also what I always. Yeah, this is interesting because at home I always share my experiences with my wife.
Yes.
We used to work for Galenica 35 years ago, and this is part of our life. I explain every day what I do, and she challenged me, and always she tells me, Etienne, it will not work. And you have explained many times that he doesn't do what you want. He's making mistake and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell her, no, I will give him or her more time.
Another chance.
And finally she has right, and I have to take the decision. But very often too, people change their attitude, change their decision, and move in the right direction. And I can tell you, if it works, these people become the best, because they are able to adapt themselves, and flexibility and learning from mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the most interesting people. And finally, I am convinced this is my way of working, and for me, it's the best. For me, I'm not teaching everybody else, but for me, it is the best, giving the chance to people,
Right.
creating the right environment, explaining, being patient, and then if it doesn't work, taking hard measures.
As the executive chairman here, do you outrank everyone in the organization in the sense that if you say that that guy's got to go, or there's a choice between promoting one of two people. You say, that's my choice, and everyone else says, yes, sir.
No, this is exactly what I try not to do.
Right.
This is a responsibility of the executive committee and the CEO.
That's what I would have thought.
Yes.
And from all the things you're telling me, I get the impression that you let them make those decisions. But at the end of the day,
challenge them.
You are above all of them, right?
Yes, but this is also a question of credibility. Yes. If I want to have a CEO and an executive committee who are strong, and if you want to be successful, you need to have an executive committee and a CEO and a management who are strong. It's a question of credibility, and I let them work, but I challenge them. And as I am very often here, speaking with people, asking questions, never taking any decision, always asking questions. And then I share my experience with the executive committee or with the CEO. And I describe some strange attitude that I observe or and so on.
Yeah.
And I let them take the decision. I never will fire someone. I let them do.
Yeah.
I will back them if they take the decision to fire people.
Right.
But I let them take the decision. But, if I observe that let's take an example. One manager is always making the same mistake or having the wrong attitude, answering wrongly the question, or having a bad attitude. I think this is very often a question of attitude. If every day I will come to the executive committee asking, but why, they will take the decision.
Sure.
By themselves.
Yeah, of course.
Well, this is the way I work.
Yeah. And of course, attitude is the number one thing, isn't it?
It's very, very.
If you make mistakes, but you have the positive attitude, you can actually change.
Yes.
Right.
And this is the goal, finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you need people, and you need people who share the same philosophy, same attitude. And,
right.
And if they are able to learn from their mistakes, they become stronger.
Yeah.
And this is in your interest, in the interest of the company.
Yeah. And going back to our discussion about the availability of talent here, it's also relatively easy in an organization to make some personnel changes, right?
Oh, yes. Here, total flexibility. But you have to be fair, because if you just fire people like this, you will not hire anymore, because people will
nobody will come work for you, right?
But the flexibility is absolutely very good. It's fantastic.
I mean, there are protections for the employee, but the employer still is free to make personnel decisions that make sense for the organization.
Of responsibility. I think this is the best possible way. This is a winning situation for both. A question of respect. If the company is not respecting people, nobody will work with you.
Right.
Anymore, and you will have difficulties to hire the right people. If you have a good reputation, people will come to you.
Yeah.
But if you have bad people, you have the possibility to fire them without any problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me switch gears and ask you a question about the future. You've had a glorious career, more than 40 years in the working world, with lots of experience in lots of different positions, different areas of responsibility. If you were 26 years old in the year 2026, with all of the knowledge that you have now, what would be the industry that you would want to work in here in Switzerland? Where would you want to start your career?
I think I know the pharma industry very well, the retail industry very well.
Yes.
I think working for the health system is beautiful.
A little bit broader than just pharma, necessarily.
Yes. For me, for the smoking industry or for the army would not be an industries where I would work for.
Yeah.
Health industry is a fantastic
industry. And tell us about that. I mean, because that is very solid in Switzerland.
Oh, it's incredible.
I mean, the pharma industry goes back to the 1800s, right? Or even I think Siba Geigy, which we were talking about before we started recording, made dye stuffs back in the 1700s, right? So the industry, that narrow part of it has been here for a long, long time and has led to some real giants globally. But now when we're talking about healthcare and it's much broader, it's also
20 or 25% of the population in Switzerland is working for the health industry.
that much. I didn't realize.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Hospitals, doctors, pharma, logistic,
Right.
huge.
Right. And what can you tell us about the sort of the ecosystem of the companies themselves? I mean, because you have different aspects here where I suppose they must be able to collaborate, right, easily. Research, then you have testing, I suppose, in a lot of aspects. You have the actual healthcare providers like the hospitals. You have the pharma industry. You have medical devices. You have the engineering that goes with that. Do you, in OM Pharma, do you take advantage of this incredible environment of partners?
It's clear. You have everything you wish here.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive. If here we have many foreigners working, and just before starting this interview, I was with our new head of marketing. She comes from Peru, and she just started 2 weeks ago here in Geneva. She is totally fascinated. You will tell me that Peru and Switzerland are not exactly the same kind of countries, but anyway, she was totally amazed. She found fantastic what all the possibilities we have, and I think this is part of the success of Switzerland, that you have all possibilities. Here in Geneva, you have the airport next door.
Yes.
You are in Bern. You need 1 hour to go, 1 hour and a quarter to go to Zurich.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Right.
I remember very well when we bought a Canadian company, Aspreva, and we hired many of these people, letting them come to Zurich. When they discovered our rail train system, they were totally fascinated.
Yeah.
And we have also created a company in Bern with Walgreens, the US pharmacy chain, and with Boots, which were based in our headquarters in Bern. Galenica was based in Bern. And we had 20 people coming from either London or New York. And they were totally fascinated. 1 hour and a quarter with the train to go to the airport.
Right. Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is a very good example. And you have the same possibility if you are in Bern. You can go to Basel, 1 hour or 1.5, and you are in Geneva.
Right.
Yesterday, I left Istanbul, landed in Zurich. I went to Bern. I had a meeting. The evening, I was here in Geneva. This is part of our life.
Easy day.
And it is absolutely no
That's
no
right.
problem.
The transportation network.
Everything is
here.
very concentrated.
Yes, that's right.
If you are in the US or in France, you need hours,
Right.
or days.
Well, I was
Here,
gonna say,
it's a
when
question of a
your-
few hours.
Your Canadian contact.
Yes, it's a good example.
They're used to traveling by train, but it's a 4-day trip, right?
Exactly.
All the way out to Vancouver.
Another world.
Yes, right.
Everything is small, but we have large company and big people, and great people.
That's almost the note we should end on. But I have one final question to
As
ask
you
you,
wish.
right? If you could look around you, is there any particular signpost or indicator that you would look at that would tell you whether Switzerland is going to become even more successful in the future or more challenged in the next, say, 10 years?
Oh,
Do you understand my question?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Just look at what happened around the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are the most lucky people in the world.
Not to be in the middle of all that, you mean?
Oh, yes.
Yes, right.
And just a good example, I was last year in Dubai with my family. Now people prefer to put their money here in Switzerland than to keep it in Dubai.
Right.
Good opportunity. Here, center of the world, good life.
What more can you say?
Best position for the future.
Well, I think on that note, then we really should wrap it up, because I can't ask you to beat that comment, but that's really fantastic that you feel so strongly. And, the point that you make about Switzerland's untouched position in the center of the world in that respect is so true. And I think everyone here knows it. Everyone here feels it day by day. We just have to read the newspaper to actually see how lucky we are that
we must consider this.
Absolutely.
Here we are extremely lucky. We have everything.
Etienne, thank you so much for joining me today for this discussion.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.